Restaurant turns away. Black single dad. Wealthy woman steps in with a surprise. Invite. Marcus Turner shifted uneasily as the heavy wooden door of Le Jardin Bistro slammed shut behind him. The late afternoon sunlight spilled across the polished marble floor, casting long shadows that seemed to grow darker with each passing second. His son, 7-year-old Jamal, tugged at his worn jacket sleeve, eyes wide with confusion and hurt. The quaint little bistro, nestled in an upscale neighborhood of Chicago, had promised a peaceful dinner, a rare treat for the single dad trying to create a semblance of normalcy in their small world. But that hope was crumbling fast. Marcus cleared his throat, forcing a calm smile that felt brittle in the suffocating air. "It's okay, buddy. Let's just wait a minute." Jamal nodded, but kept glancing at the hostess station, where an elegantly dressed woman spoke in low tones with a stern-faced man in a crisp suit. They had just politely yet firmly denied Marcus a table. Again. The hostess, a slim woman named Chloe, approached them with a practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm so sorry, sir." "We're fully booked, and we can't accommodate walk-ins at this time." Her words were polite, but the way her gaze flickered toward Jamal was quick and dismissive, as if the child's presence made the whole situation inconvenient. Marcus straightened his shoulders. "I understand." "We just wanted to have dinner. My son hasn't been out in a while." His voice was calm but carried a quiet firmness. "Is there any way we could wait?" "Maybe at the bar?" Chloe shook her head. "I'm afraid not. We have a strict policy." She glanced at the manager, who nodded approvingly. The message was clear. No exceptions. A knot tightened in Marcus's chest. "Is this because I'm—" He left the question hanging, the unspoken words heavy in the air. Chloe's lips twitched for a moment, an almost imperceptible smirk. "Sir, we don't discriminate here, but we do prioritize reservations and clientele." She looked at Jamal again, this time with thinly veiled impatience. "Maybe another time." Marcus felt Jamal's grip on his hand tighten, sensing the boy's silent confusion. "Come on, Jamal," Marcus whispered, trying to shield him from the sting of rejection. "Let's go." They turned away from the entrance, Marcus's heart heavy. The streets felt colder now, the laughter and chatter inside the restaurant a cruel contrast to their sudden isolation. Jamal's small voice broke the silence. "Daddy, why did they say no?" "Did I do something wrong?" Marcus knelt down, looking into his son's eyes. "No, baby. You did nothing wrong." "Sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes they don't understand." He swallowed hard, fighting the urge to let the anger rise. "But don't ever think you're not good enough." As they walked away, the weight of the moment pressed down on Marcus. A single father, juggling 2 jobs and trying to give his son the life he deserved, yet facing invisible walls at every turn. The rejection wasn't just about a table at a restaurant. It was a reminder of a deeper systemic barrier he couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, inside Le Jardin, luxury mingled with complacency. Across the room, a woman named Vivian Langston observed the scene with keen eyes. Vivian, in her early 40s, carried herself with the grace of someone accustomed to power and privilege. Her tailored designer suit and diamond earrings marked her as a woman who owned not just wealth, but influence. Yet beneath her polished exterior, a fierce sense of justice burned quietly. Vivian had been dining with a group of socialites when her gaze was drawn to Marcus and Jamal. She saw the subtle rejection, the way the staff's polite dismissal masked an unspoken prejudice. A flash of indignation sparked inside her. She couldn't turn away. She excused herself from her table and approached Marcus as he reached the corner of the street. "Excuse me," she called softly, her voice calm but commanding. Marcus stopped, startled by the sudden voice. Vivian smiled warmly, extending her hand.
I'm Vivian. I saw what just happened back there. It wasn't right. Marcus hesitated, unsure how to respond.
Thank you, he finally said, shaking her hand. But it's just dinner. No big deal. It is a big deal, Vivian said firmly.
No one should be made to feel unwelcome, especially not you or your son.
Jamal peeked out from behind his father, eyes wide but curious. Vivian turned to him and crouched down, meeting his gaze. Hey, champ. Would you like to have dinner with me? I promise it'll be fun. Jamal's face lit up with a shy smile. Marcus looked at Vivian, skepticism mingling with hope.
Are you sure? You don't even know us.
Vivian's smile deepened. I know enough. Come with me. Let's make this evening one to remember. As they walked back toward Le Jardin, Marcus's heart lifted slightly. For the first time that day, he felt seen, not as a statistic or an inconvenience, but as a man and a father deserving of dignity. But Vivian had no idea that this encounter was just the beginning of a story that would unravel the quiet prejudices hidden beneath the city's polished surface, and challenge everyone involved to confront uncomfortable truths. Back at the bistro, whispers began to ripple through the room. Some diners watched with surprise, others with curiosity. The manager's face tightened as he saw Vivian leading Marcus and Jamal through the grand entrance, an unexpected guest with a powerful presence. Do you realize who that woman is? A waiter murmured to a colleague. If she speaks up, this place could lose everything. As the trio settled at a reserved table near the window, Vivian leaned in and whispered, This night is about more than dinner. It's about making sure you're never turned away again. Marcus nodded, a fire kindling in his chest. Thank you for standing with us. Outside, the city's lights flickered, but inside that small table, hope was rekindled. And neither Marcus nor Vivian knew how deeply their night together would change the course of many lives. Marcus sat at the table, the polished wood gleaming under the soft glow of the chandelier, the fine china and crystal glasses laid out like a promise of something more, a night free of judgment. Jamal fidgeted beside him, eyes darting around the elegantly dressed guests, the clinking of cutlery and the murmurs of conversations that felt like a different world. But for Marcus, this moment was surreal, almost unreal, as if he had stepped into a dream he wasn't sure he deserved. Vivian sat across from them, her posture graceful yet relaxed, as if she belonged here but carried a quiet strength underneath. She watched Marcus with an intensity that spoke volumes. You okay? She asked softly. Marcus smiled, though a knot remained tight in his throat. Yeah, just a little overwhelmed. It's not every day a guy like me gets to sit here without feeling like he has to prove something. Vivian chuckled lightly. I get it, but you don't have to prove anything tonight. You're my guest, and Jamal is welcome here. Jamal looked up, a shy smile creeping across his face. Thank you, ma'am, he said politely, gripping his dad's hand. Vivian's eyes softened. You're very welcome, young man. The waiter approached, taking their orders with a polite nod, and Marcus felt the awkwardness fade with each passing moment. He wanted to relax, to enjoy the food and company, but deep down, the sting of earlier rejection lingered like a shadow at the edge of the room. As the appetizers arrived, a vibrant salad drizzled with a delicate vinaigrette and freshly baked bread, Vivian leaned in, lowering her voice. I couldn't just watch what happened earlier. It wasn't right. Marcus looked down at his plate, then back at her. You don't have to do this. You don't even know me. I know enough, Vivian said firmly. I see you. And that's something a lot of people don't. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a group at the next table, a cluster of well-dressed patrons who whispered amongst themselves, casting occasional glances toward Marcus and Jamal. Marcus noticed the change immediately. The atmosphere shifted. The warmth that had settled was replaced by a cool undercurrent of judgment. One woman, her tone dripping with condescension, whispered loudly enough for Marcus to catch.
"What's he doing here? Looks like he doesn't belong."
Another man smirked, adding, "Probably some charity case. Too bad this isn't soup kitchen hours." Marcus felt Jamal tense beside him. The child's small hand tightened around his father's. Marcus's jaw clenched. He wanted to ignore it, to rise above the whispered slurs and sideways glances. But Vivian caught the change in his expression and gently placed a hand on his arm. "They don't get to define you," she said quietly. Just then the restaurant manager approached, his face pale but composed. "Ms. Langston, I need a word," he said, his voice low. Vivian nodded and followed him toward the back, leaving Marcus and Jamal to their meal. The tension in the air was thick, and Marcus's mind raced. "What do you think?" Jamal whispered. Marcus forced a smile. "I think we're making a difference just by being here." Meanwhile, Vivian listened as the manager voiced concerns about the potential backlash from other patrons. "People don't want to see this here," he said. "You're stirring the pot." Vivian's eyes flashed with determination. "People need to see this. Marcus and Jamal deserve to be here just as much as anyone else." Back at the table, Marcus pulled Jamal close. "Son, do you know why some people are mean?" Jamal shook his head. "Because they're scared. Scared of things they don't understand." Jamal looked up at his dad. "But you're not scared." Marcus chuckled. "I have my moments, believe me. But I'm not going to let fear stop me from giving you the life you deserve." As dinner progressed, Marcus's phone buzzed quietly in his pocket. He glanced at it. A message from Vivian. "They're planning to ask you to leave." "Be ready." His heart pounded, but he stayed calm. This was more than dinner now. It was a stand. Suddenly the manager returned, clearing his throat. "Mr. Turner, I'm afraid we have to ask you and your son to leave. We've had complaints." Marcus stood slowly, holding Jamal's hand firmly. "We've done nothing wrong. We're here to enjoy a meal like anyone else." The manager shook his head. "I'm sorry, sir, but the decision stands." Vivian reappeared, her voice firm and clear. "That's enough. Marcus and Jamal are my guests. If you think it's appropriate to ask them to leave, then you'll have to go as well." A hush fell over the room. Patrons turned, eyes wide with surprise and curiosity. The manager's face flushed. "This isn't the place for a scene, Mrs. Langston." Vivian's smile was icy. "Neither is discrimination." She turned to Marcus. "Let's go somewhere where you're truly welcome." As they walked out, Marcus felt a surge of gratitude. Vivian's boldness had given them dignity in a place that had almost stripped it away. Outside, under the city lights, Jamal looked up. "Daddy, that lady is really nice." Marcus kissed his son's forehead. "Yes, she is. And sometimes it takes someone brave to change the world." But Marcus also knew this night was just the beginning. The fight for respect, for equality, was far from over. And with allies like Vivian, he felt ready to face whatever came next. The days following that tense dinner felt like a whirlwind for Marcus. The sting of being turned away, the whispered judgments in the restaurant, and the unexpected kindness from Vivian left a mix of emotions swirling in his heart. But as Jamal slept peacefully each night, unaware of the battles his father fought, Marcus found himself driven by something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Vivian, true to her word, invited Marcus and Jamal to her home the next afternoon. Her modern house was a world away from the harsh streets Marcus had known before, yet it was filled with warmth. There were photographs of Vivian's family on the walls,
vibrant paintings that spoke of dreams, and soft music that wrapped around them like a comforting embrace. "Make yourself at home," Vivian said with a smile, leading Jamal toward a stack of board games while Marcus sat down, still grappling with the realities they faced. "I don't know how to thank you," Marcus admitted, his voice heavy with gratitude. "You stepped in when no one else would. You made me feel human again." Vivian shrugged, brushing it off. "You don't have to thank me." "But there's more at play here. What happened last night? It's not just about a meal. It's about a system that doesn't see people like you the way you deserve." Marcus sighed, rubbing his forehead. "I know. It's been a lifetime of fighting to be seen for who I am, not just the color of my skin or the shape of my wallet." Vivian nodded thoughtfully. "Have you ever thought about standing up to that system? Not just for yourself, but for others who don't have a voice." The question hung in the air, heavy and challenging. Marcus looked at her, surprise flickering in his eyes. "I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of fight." "I've been surviving, not battling." "But you have strength," Vivian insisted. "You've already shown it. And sometimes the fight isn't a battle with fists or words. Sometimes it's a story told, a voice raised, a truth shared." Marcus reflected on her words late into the night. The city outside his small apartment buzzed with life, but inside, the walls seemed to close in. He thought about Jamal, the innocent child who deserved better than fear and exclusion. The next day, Marcus found himself at a community center, invited by Vivian to speak at a gathering. The room was filled with people of all ages and backgrounds, united by a desire for change. Marcus felt the weight of their eyes as he stepped up to the microphone. "Good afternoon," he began, voice steady but heartfelt. "My name is Marcus Turner. I'm a single father, and like many of you, I've faced obstacles that seemed impossible to overcome. Last night, my son and I were turned away from a restaurant simply because of who we are." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Marcus's words grew stronger, more passionate. "But that rejection is not just mine to bear. It belongs to all of us who have been judged, dismissed, or forgotten. It's a call for us to stand together, to demand respect, dignity, and equality." As he spoke, Marcus felt a surge of power. The fight he feared was not just his. It was theirs. The people in that room were ready to listen, to act. Backstage, Vivian watched proudly. "See?" she whispered to herself. "This is just the beginning." But not everyone was ready for change. At the restaurant, word of Marcus's speech spread quickly. The manager, Paul, sat in his office, conflicted and defensive. "We didn't mean to be rude," he argued to the owner, Mr. Stevens. "We just have standards to uphold. We can't have just anyone coming in here, Mr. Stevens shook his head, his voice cold. "Standards? Or prejudice? This is bad for business. We need to fix this." Paul nodded reluctantly, but his bitterness lingered. Meanwhile, Marcus received messages of support from strangers and friends alike. But with every message came threats and hateful comments from those unwilling to see past their biases. One evening, as Marcus returned home, he found a note slipped under his door, a thinly veiled warning to stop stirring trouble. Jamal looked up at his father with innocent eyes. "Daddy, are people mad at you?" Marcus hugged him tightly. "Sometimes, son, but we're doing the right thing." The battle was no longer just about dinner. It was about justice, respect, and hope for a better tomorrow. One night, as Marcus and Vivian strategized ways to raise awareness and challenge discriminatory practices, a surprising ally emerged. Sarah, a well-known civil rights attorney with a fierce reputation for fighting injustice. "I've been following your story," Sarah said, her voice calm but determined. "We can take this to court, hold them accountable, change the system." Marcus felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. The path ahead was uncertain and dangerous, but with people like Vivian and Sarah by his side, he no longer had to walk it alone. As the city slept, a storm brewed, not just outside, but in the hearts of those ready to fight for change. Marcus knew the road ahead would be rough, but for Jamal's sake, and every family like theirs, he was prepared to face it head-on. Because sometimes, it's not about winning overnight, it's about planting seeds of courage that will one day grow into a forest of justice. The morning sunlight spilled through the tall windows of Marcus's modest apartment, but the warmth it brought was nothing compared to the fire burning in his heart. After the powerful speech at the community center, Marcus found himself thrust into a spotlight he neither sought nor expected. Calls and messages flooded in, some encouraging, many hostile. The battle lines were drawn, and Marcus realized this fight would stretch far beyond that one restaurant. As he sipped his coffee, Marcus's phone buzzed incessantly. It was Vivian. "Are you ready for what's next?" she asked, her voice steady but filled with urgency. Marcus sighed, feeling the weight of every word and action. "I have to be. For Jamal, for everyone who's been silenced." Later that day, Marcus met with Sarah, the civil rights attorney. Her office was filled with legal books and framed photos of historic figures who had fought for justice. She looked at Marcus with admiration. "We have a strong case. This isn't just about your experience. It's about systemic discrimination that runs deep. But it won't be easy." "I'm ready for whatever comes," Marcus replied firmly. The legal battle began swiftly. Sarah filed a formal complaint against the restaurant, alleging discrimination based on race and family status. The media caught wind of the story, and soon, Marcus's face was on every news channel. Headlines ranged from sympathetic to accusatory. Social media erupted with heated debates, but Marcus stayed grounded, focusing on his son and the cause. At the restaurant, the atmosphere shifted palpably. Paul, the manager, grew defensive and erratic. "They're making a mountain out of a molehill," he insisted to his staff. "We've got standards to keep. This whole thing's going to ruin us." But the owner, Mr. Stevens, a shrewd businessman, knew the stakes were higher. "Paul, this isn't just about your feelings or the restaurant's image anymore. We need to handle this carefully or face legal consequences." Behind closed doors, the restaurant's legal team prepared for what was shaping up to be a landmark case. But Marcus wasn't just relying on lawyers. He leaned on Vivian and Sarah, building a coalition of community leaders, activists, and ordinary people ready to stand against injustice. One afternoon, Marcus took Jamal to the park. As his son played, Marcus caught sight of a group of teenagers whispering and pointing. One boy shouted, "That's the single dad making headlines. What's he so proud of?" Others laughed cruelly. Marcus's heart ached, but he squared his shoulders. "They don't see me, Jamal, but we'll show them." The pressure mounted. Marcus's phone buzzed with a mix of support and threats. At one point, a particularly nasty message shook him to the core, questioning his ability to be a good father, his worthiness of respect. Vivian's presence became a lifeline. One evening, after putting Jamal to bed, Marcus sat in her living room, fatigue etched into his face. "You're doing something important," Vivian said softly. "They attack because they're afraid of change. I want to be strong for Jamal. I don't want him growing up thinking this is normal." "You're teaching him the opposite. That courage means standing tall even when the world tries to knock you down." Meanwhile, inside the restaurant, tensions reached a breaking point. Paul's prejudice blindsided him when an unexpected inspection revealed discriminatory practices beyond just Marcus's case. employee reports, biased policies, even covert exclusion of certain patrons. Facing mounting evidence and public outrage, Paul tried to defend his actions in a televised interview. "We never meant to discriminate. It was about maintaining a certain atmosphere." But Sarah and Vivian countered fiercely, exposing the lies and demanding accountability. The climax unfolded in a courtroom packed with reporters, activists, and ordinary citizens who had followed Marcus's journey. The judge listened intently as Sarah laid out the case, presenting testimonies, evidence, and the emotional toll on Marcus and Jamal. Paul's defense crumbled under scrutiny. The judge ruled in favor of Marcus, ordering the restaurant to publicly apologize, implement anti-discrimination training, and pay damages. Outside the courthouse, Marcus faced a crowd that had once doubted him. Cheers erupted as he held Jamal close. In a heartfelt speech, Marcus said, "This victory isn't just mine. It's for every parent, every person who's been told they don't belong. We are worthy. We are strong. And together we can change the world." But even in victory, Marcus knew the work was far from over. The case sparked conversations nationwide about systemic racism and inequality. Policies began to change, but the road ahead remained long. In quiet moments, Marcus reflected on his journey, from a man rejected at a restaurant to a symbol of resilience and hope. He looked at Jamal's smiling face and vowed to keep fighting, for a future where every child would grow up in a world free from prejudice. The days following the courtroom victory brought a whirlwind of change for Marcus and his son Jamal. The restaurant had issued a formal apology, but the scars left behind were still raw. The media buzzed with stories about Marcus's bravery, but not all attention was welcome. Some whispered doubts, questioning his motives or digging into his past. The fight for justice was far from over. It was evolving into something bigger, more personal, and far more complicated. Marcus sat in the dim light of his small apartment, the faint hum of the city outside seeping through the cracked window. Jamal was asleep, tucked safely into bed, but Marcus's mind was racing. He glanced at his phone, where messages from supporters and critics alike continued to flood in. A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Vivian stepped in, carrying a stack of papers and her usual determined expression. "We've got more calls for town hall meetings and interviews. People want to know your story, Marcus. This is becoming a movement." He managed a tired smile. "I never asked for this. I just wanted to feed my son dinner." Vivian shook her head. "Sometimes, the smallest acts ripple out in ways we can't predict." "But we have to be ready. This isn't just your fight anymore." The following week, Marcus found himself at the community center again, this time not as a speaker, but as a leader. The room was packed with people, single parents, activists, and ordinary citizens eager to share their stories. Marcus listened to their struggles, feeling a profound connection with each voice. One woman, Sarah, stood out. She was a single mother of 2, her hands rough from years of hard work. "We all face doors closed to us, Marcus. Your courage has shown us that those doors can be forced open." Her words echoed in Marcus's mind, fueling his resolve. But not everyone welcomed the change. Back at the restaurant, Paul's grip on his job was slipping. Whispers of his potential firing swirled among the staff. Desperate, he tried to rally support, spreading rumors about Marcus, trying to paint him as a troublemaker. One evening, Marcus received a text from an unknown number. "Back off, or you'll regret it." A chill ran down his spine. Vivian saw the message and immediately insisted on involving the police. "This is harassment, Marcus." "We can't let fear win." Marcus nodded, though part of him wanted to push through alone. "I'm not afraid." That night, as Marcus walked Jamal home, a shadowy figure lurked nearby. The weight of the threat pressed down on him, but the fierce love for his son kept him steady. The next day, A community fundraiser was held in Marcus's honor. The energy was electric, people from all walks of life coming together to support the fight against discrimination. Marcus took the stage, his voice steady but passionate. "We're not just fighting for one dinner or one restaurant," he declared. "We're fighting for dignity, for respect, for every parent trying to provide for their family. This is about changing the world for our children." The crowd erupted in applause, but Marcus's eyes searched the faces for the allies who would stand with him in the battles to come. Meanwhile, Paul's downfall accelerated. The restaurant owner, Mr. Stevens, finally acted, suspending Paul pending an investigation. The community demanded transparency, and a new manager was brought in, someone committed to inclusivity and respect. But the fight wasn't just external. Marcus faced moments of doubt and exhaustion. The relentless spotlight, the threats, and the endless meetings weighed heavily. One late night, Vivian found him sitting alone on a park bench, the city lights flickering behind him. "Marcus, you don't have to carry this alone," she said gently. He looked at her, his eyes tired but determined. "I know. But if I stop now, who will fight for Jamal?" "For all the others?" Vivian nodded. "Then we fight together." As the chapter closed, Marcus realized this was more than a battle for justice. It was a journey of resilience, community, and unyielding hope. The momentum Marcus had built was undeniable, but the path ahead was anything but smooth. The public support grew louder, yet the forces pushing back became increasingly aggressive and calculated. Marcus knew the real test was just beginning, not just the fight for fairness in a single restaurant, but the broader battle against systemic discrimination deeply rooted in the city's culture. One morning, Marcus arrived at the community center to find Vivian waiting for him with a grave expression. "We need to talk," she said, her voice low. He followed her into a quiet room. "What's going on?" Vivian handed him a stack of documents. "There's an anonymous campaign targeting you. Fake social media accounts spreading rumors, attempts to discredit your reputation. They're trying to make you look like the villain." Marcus's jaw tightened. "So they're playing dirty?" "Yes," Vivian nodded. "And it's escalating. There was an incident last night. Someone vandalized the mural we painted in support of your cause." He clenched his fists. "They're afraid of change." "But we can't let them win." Determined to face the threats head-on, Marcus decided to hold a press conference. Word spread quickly, and reporters packed the room. Cameras flashed as he stepped up to the podium. "Good morning," Marcus began, his voice steady but charged with emotion. "I stand here not just as a single father fighting for respect, but as a symbol of every person who's been denied dignity because of their skin color or background. These attacks won't silence me or the movement we've started. We will continue to demand justice and equality for all." Afterward, as reporters scrambled with questions, Marcus noticed a familiar face, Elena Matthews, a local philanthropist known for championing civil rights causes. She approached him, her eyes filled with genuine concern. "Marcus, I've been following your story." "You have my full support," she said. "I want to help amplify your voice." He smiled, feeling a surge of hope. "Thank you, Elena. We need allies like you." Over the next few weeks, Elena's involvement brought new resources and attention. Fundraisers were organized, and the movement gained traction beyond the city, yet the opposition grew more ruthless. One afternoon, as Marcus picked up Jamal from school, a man stepped out of a black SUV and confronted them. "Marcus Williams?" the man asked, his tone cold. "That's me," Marcus replied cautiously. The man flashed a badge. "Detective Harris, City Police. We need to ask you a few questions about the recent protests and the vandalism." Marcus's heart pounded. "I haven't done anything illegal. I'm just standing up for my rights." The detective's eyes narrowed. We've received reports linking you to inciting public disorder. This is serious. Vivian, who had arrived with them, stepped forward. Detective, Marcus has been peaceful and lawful in his activism. These accusations are baseless. The detective smirked.
We'll see about that. You're coming with us for questioning. That night, Marcus sat alone in a dimly lit interrogation room. The weight of the day pressed heavily on his shoulders.
He knew this was a tactic, intimidation meant to break his spirit and derail the movement. Suddenly the door opened and Elena entered. "Marcus, you're not alone," she said firmly. "We're working on getting you out of here." Her presence was a balm. Together they strategized how to navigate this challenge without losing sight of their goal. Meanwhile, at the restaurant that had started it all, the new management implemented diversity training and community outreach programs. The staff who had discriminated faced disciplinary action, and new policies were put in place to ensure fairness. But Paul, the former manager, refused to accept defeat. He spread false narratives, trying to pit community members against Marcus. Yet his influence waned as more people saw the genuine impact of Marcus's courage. Back in the courtroom, a lawsuit was filed against the city for the wrongful detainment and harassment of peaceful protesters. Vivian took the lead, gathering evidence and testimonies from affected individuals. During one intense hearing, the judge reprimanded the police department for overreach and ordered reforms to protect citizens' rights. Outside the courthouse, Marcus addressed the crowd. "This victory isn't just for me. It's for every person who's been silenced and pushed aside. Our fight continues, but today we show that justice is possible when we stand together." As the movement swelled, Marcus found moments of peace with Jamal. One evening, they sat on the rooftop of their apartment building, watching the city lights twinkle below. "Dad, are we really going to change things?" Jamal asked, his young voice hopeful. Marcus smiled, pulling him close. "Yes, son. Change starts with us. And together, we'll make sure it lasts." The chapter closed with Marcus's resolve stronger than ever, knowing the road ahead would be long, but fueled by the power of community, love, and unwavering determination. Marcus's journey had turned into more than just a fight for fairness at a restaurant. It had become a symbol of resistance against a system that often overlooked the struggles of ordinary people. But just when Marcus thought he had weathered the worst, a new storm was brewing. One late afternoon, Marcus received a call from Elena. Her voice was tense. "Marcus, we need to meet. Something's come up." At a nearby cafe, she slid a manila folder across the table. "Look at this." Marcus opened it carefully. The documents revealed a covert plan orchestrated by powerful figures in the city council, in league with business owners like Paul, to suppress voices like his by using intimidation, legal manipulation, and misinformation. They've been monitoring activists, planting fake evidence, and trying to smear reputations to keep control, Elena explained. And now, they want to silence you permanently. Marcus's heart raced. "So this isn't just about the restaurant?" "No," Elena said grimly. "It's about maintaining the status quo, keeping marginalized voices unheard." Determined not to be silenced, Marcus began organizing a coalition of activists, community leaders, and legal experts to expose the corruption. But the opposition was relentless. One evening, as Marcus left a meeting, his car was blocked by unmarked vehicles. Two men in suits approached. "Marcus Williams?" one asked. "That's me. We're here to escort you for further questioning about your activism," the other said, flashing badges that didn't look official. Marcus's pulse quickened. He sensed this was more than a routine inquiry. It was a warning. "On what grounds?" Marcus demanded. "Let's just say there are concerns about public safety," the man replied. Vivian, who had been walking nearby, stepped forward. "This is harassment." "Marcus is a peaceful activist." The men hesitated, then backed off, sensing the growing crowd of onlookers. That night, Marcus gathered with his team in a small rented space. "They're trying to intimidate us," he said, "but we'll fight smarter." Eleanor pulled up a live news feed on her laptop.
The media is starting to pick up the story. Some outlets are sympathetic, others are being pressured to stay silent. Marcus looked out the window at the city skyline. "We need a big move, something undeniable." The next day, Marcus announced a peaceful citywide march to demand transparency and justice. Flyers went up overnight. Social media buzzed with anticipation. On the day of the march, thousands showed up, diverse faces united by a common cause. As they marched, chanting for equality and reform, tensions rose when police blocked the route. Marcus stood at the front, microphone in hand. "We are here to be heard, not to cause chaos." Suddenly, a group of provocateurs started throwing objects at the police, escalating the situation. Marcus immediately called for calm. "This is not us!" he shouted. "Peaceful protest is our right." The police responded with force, arresting several protesters, including some of Marcus's close friends. Back at his apartment, Marcus sat exhausted, the weight of the day pressing down. Jamal noticed. "Dad, why do they hate you so much?" Marcus hugged him. "Sometimes, standing up for what's right means facing hate. But we won't stop." Days later, the legal team filed motions to release the arrested protesters and challenge the police's actions in court. Meanwhile, Paul and his allies were growing desperate. They leaked false stories painting Marcus as a troublemaker. Marcus's phone buzzed incessantly with threatening messages. His email was hacked, but he refused to back down. One night, as he walked home, a shadowy figure blocked his path. "You're making a lot of enemies, Williams," the man warned. "Careful, or this fight will cost you more than you think." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "I'm ready for whatever comes." The tension escalated until the day of the court hearing. Inside the packed courtroom, the judge listened as Vivian and the legal team presented compelling evidence of police misconduct. The judge's gavel came down decisively. "The arrests are deemed unlawful. The city will undertake an independent review of police practices." Outside, the crowd erupted in cheers. Marcus stood, drenched in relief, but aware the fight was far from over. Later, in a quiet moment, Eleanor approached. "You've sparked a movement, Marcus. People are paying attention." Marcus smiled tiredly. "I'm just one man. But together, we can change the system." As the chapter closed, Marcus knew his battle had transformed into a beacon of hope, challenging deep-rooted injustices, inspiring others to stand, and proving that even against the harshest opposition, courage and truth could prevail. The aftermath of the courtroom victory sent ripples through the city, stirring hope in those who had long felt voiceless. Marcus knew, though, that the fight for justice wasn't finished. It had only just begun. The media spotlight intensified, shining on Marcus as both a hero and a target. Yet, amidst the glare, a wealthy woman named Vanessa Carlyle emerged, a powerful philanthropist known for her dedication to social justice. Vanessa reached out to Marcus with an unexpected invitation to a gala event at one of the city's most exclusive venues. Marcus hesitated. "Why would someone like her want to help me?" he asked Elena as they prepared for the event. Eleanor smiled. "Sometimes, when worlds collide, real change can happen." At the gala, Vanessa greeted Marcus warmly, her presence commanding yet approachable. "Marcus, your courage has inspired many. Tonight, I want to offer you a platform to bring your message to a wider audience." Their conversation was cut short as Paul, the restaurant owner and primary antagonist, arrived. his expression darkening when he saw Marcus. The tension was palpable. Paul sneered. So, the single dad turned activist finally gets his moment in the sun. Enjoy it while it lasts. Vanessa's eyes flashed. Paul, your actions have consequences. It's time you face them. Suddenly, Vanessa pulled out evidence collected by her private investigators, emails, recordings, and documents proving Paul's involvement in systemic discrimination and corruption. The room fell silent. Marcus felt a surge of vindication. This is the proof the city needs, he said firmly. No more hiding behind money and influence. Paul's face twisted in rage. You think this changes anything? I have connections. You don't know who you're dealing with, Vanessa replied coolly. We're dealing with justice, and this time it won't be denied. The event ended with a public announcement that the authorities would launch a full investigation into Paul's practices. Social media erupted in support of Marcus and Vanessa, while the voices calling for reform grew louder. Days later, Marcus sat with his son Jamal in the park. You see, son, Marcus said gently, sometimes standing up means facing giants. But no matter how big they seem, truth and courage can bring them down. Jamal looked up, eyes shining. Dad, you're my hero, Marcus smiled, heart full. And you're mine. But Marcus also knew this victory was part of a larger struggle. The system wasn't fixed overnight. He committed himself to continuing the work, raising awareness, supporting others facing discrimination, and ensuring that fairness wasn't just a dream, but a reality. Vanessa became a steadfast ally, helping fund initiatives and connecting Marcus with influential leaders willing to listen. Together, they organized workshops, community programs, and public forums, turning momentum into lasting change. Meanwhile, Paul faced mounting legal troubles. His restaurant was shut down pending investigation, and he lost key business partners. Public backlash forced him to issue a reluctant apology, but Marcus and Vanessa insisted on transparency and accountability. At a press conference, Marcus spoke clearly. This isn't about revenge, it's about setting a precedent, so no one else has to endure what I did. The crowd applauded, some teary-eyed, others inspired. As the story closed, Marcus reflected on how a simple act of kindness had spiraled into a powerful movement. From being turned away to being invited in, from being silenced to becoming a voice for justice, he had proven that dignity and respect were not privileges, they were rights. To viewers, Marcus's message was clear. No matter your background or circumstance, you have the power to stand up, to fight, and to change the world around you. Thank you for following this journey. If this story touched you, share it, spread the message, and join us in supporting those who seek fairness every day. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more inspiring stories. Together, we can make a difference.